Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Hello. We still have a couple of minutes, but I just thought I would check to see that everything is actually working. Hey, Ed. Can you hear me okay? And can you see me okay? Hey, John. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me okay. Thanks, kid. Thanks, Jim. Hey, AR. Nice that you're here, bud. John. Hey, John. Hey, everybody. Hey, Ed. Everybody can hear me okay? Looks like Ed and John are hearing me fine. Hopefully. Hey, John from Delaware. Hey, Sebastian. Hopefully the feed is okay. Sebastian says, love the PRS. Yeah, so do I. Troy, hey, buddy. Hey, Franklin. Hey, Jeremy. Hey, Susan. So awesome that you guys could be here. This is great. Hey, David. We'll just hang out for a little bit. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes to get here, and then we'll get started a little bit. John says, what, no gem? They're sitting right over there. I actually have to play on Wednesday, so I'm prepping one of my guitars with new strings and stuff like that, getting it ready. John says, so your wife got it for you? No, I have a pretty incredible story to tell you about it. So John says, how's the healing going? Thank you for asking, John. I am now in just the sock, and I am able to put pressure on the bottom part of my foot. I don't put pressure on my toe yet, but I'm able to stand. It's just the bottom of my toe is so swelled up that my toe kind of sits up like this. And I tried to put it on in an actual shoe, and it did not work very well. Franklin says, any PDF? No, there's no PDF because I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I'm just here to help you guys with whatever you need, Franklin. Sean says, sock hop. That's right. So yeah, I'm actually able to stand on it to a certain degree. I'm actually heading out to San Diego on the 9th. I'm going out to see Dan and Matt and Tom, which many of you probably know from the Guitar Zoom staff. We're heading down to San Diego, and Derek is another one from our company. So we're all getting together and going to this convention down there, and then we're going to spend some time just hanging out because we don't get to see each other very much, obviously. So, hey, PJ, thank you so much. PJ says, glad you're doing better. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I'm not as far along as they'd like me to be. They wanted me in a shoe already, and I am not in a shoe because my hope was once I get back from San Diego in March, March 9th I go down. So when I get back, my plan was to get my other foot done because it's going to take me 2 more months for that foot. But if I'm not in a shoe by the time I go to San Diego, I don't know if I can get this foot done or not. John says, where will the IGPA be? Well, John, we're not really doing here. First of all, let me say this. Because of my surgeries, I'm not able to do what I was hoping to do as far as being able to fly out and see you guys kind of quarterly. That was my hope. And now I'm kind of messed for that until I get fully healed here. But the plan was if you're already in the San Diego area, just to come out and hang out with us, meet Tom and meet Matt and meet me and Dan and everybody. We were going to take a night and just go to a club or go to a bar and then just meet people. We won't be able to jam and stuff like that because there's just no time to put anything together. And like I said, if I wasn't going to San Diego, I wouldn't be going anywhere. Now, the plan is once I get better the next fall, we'll have to set up something where we can all get together as best we can, obviously. So we'll be talking about that as well. So Randy says sandals are more comfortable than shoes. Yeah, you're right there. It's, of course, it's wintertime here, so it's still pretty cold out, so we got to wear shoes. So I can put a snow boot on, But as long as I don't have to bend that, not that the toe bends anyway, but anyway, enough about me. So Shar says the key is to keep the foot elevated, and Shar, you are absolutely right. I guess, it's been 6 weeks now, so I don't do it as much as I used to as far as elevation goes. The doctor wanted me soaking it a lot and putting ice on it. I've been doing all that, but it's just taken longer than I was hoping it would. John says north, east, south, and west. Yeah, that's right. We might have to plan it on being west. So if you watch SpongeBob, my kids love SpongeBob. So Ed says, what about it if you have info and maybe I can see you if it's not so far? Yes, Ed. As a matter of fact, I can post that for you guys. What date? I'll have to look, Ed. But basically, it's at oh man, what was that? Hold on one second. Let me do this quick. Just give me 1 second here to pull this up. Then I can tell you guys kind of the plan here. The plan is on March 14th. March 14th, we're going to be at there's a bar called Ballast Point. And if you go to ballastpoint.com, the address is on there because I don't have the address, but it's in San Diego, and the contact is Miramar. Now I can give you guys this when this is all over, but the plan is on the 14th of March. All of us will be at Ballast Point eating some food and having some drinks and hanging out, and it's just a matter of trying to figure out who might be there. So then we'd know whether or not we need to get a bigger table to hang out a little bit, or get a room if they have some sort of room that we can all hang out and just have some drinks and whatever. So, Ed, I will let you know. John says the cold should help the swelling. It has been, but it's just not healing as well as I'd hoped it would. So, so Paul says, come to the East, preferably Rhode Island. I would love to do that. Jeremy, Glenn Drover is not still doing Guitar Zoom webinars. We have so many other things going on right now that it just didn't really work out to have Glenn doing the webinars, but not right now anyway. So hopefully sometime in the near future I can get him back on and get some other people going too. So PJ says, is this the new PRS? Yes, it is, PJ. Hey, Greg. Randy Miller says, I plan to be there. Looking forward to meeting you in person. Randy, that would be awesome. And what we'll do is, now that you guys are reminding me this, because I always need this, when I get done tomorrow, when I talk to the guys, we'll send out some sort of email to everybody. But I want you guys to know, please understand, I don't want you to drive really far or fly out there or anything like that, because we won't be jamming, okay? I won't have, I won't have a guitar with and amps and all that stuff. We're just there for a few days, and we're going to eat some food there at Ballast Point and have some drinks and have some laughs, and that's what it's going to be. So if you're already in the area and you want to come out and say hi and hang out a little bit, I think that would be awesome. But I don't want you to go like way out of your way when we won't really be able to talk a lot of shop and things like that. We're just going to be hanging out, having some fun. Hey, Brian. So let's see here. Let's keep going here. What are the differences? Oh, so we got some questions here, so let's get to some of this stuff. Randy says only about an hour drive. Well, that's not bad. That would be kind of awesome, Randy. I'd look forward to seeing you. So let's get to some of these questions. Sebastian says, what are the differences between the standalone cage course and the cage chapter in Music Theory for Life? Oh, good question, Sebastian. The cage chapter in Music Theory for Life, more so, well, it's substantially smaller, obviously. There's a lot less information. The Music Theory for Life Caged is just an overview of what the Caged is. The actual Caged course goes into detail on how to use it, a bunch of different things that you can do with it. And really, I wasn't even going to include it in the Music Theory for Life course because it's not really, like, people always get this whole thing wrong when I talk about music theory. When I teach things, like this is the way it's always been for me when I teach anything, is that if I'm not teaching you how to use what you're learning, then I shouldn't be teaching in the first place. So my job has always been, if I can show you how to do something and I can make you understand how to use it to some degree, it's a win for me. That's what I'm looking for. So with the cage thing, if you think about it, if you're a trumpet player or a saxophone player, there's no such thing as caged. Even a piano player who can play chords, there's no such thing as caged for them. Caged is this unique, weird little thing that we can do on the guitar that, again, really has nothing to do with theory, but I really wanted to include it because it's a real-world perspective of how to see your fretboard. And so whenever you're learning stuff, please always remember that the goal is like in Music Theory for Life, it's such an expansive course. And the goal is to start with baby steps in the beginning to explain fundamental elements of how things work. And then as you keep going, those ideas that you're learning are going to morph and they're going to change a little bit and they're going to become other things that hopefully, again, you're going to be able to use in your playing. So Sebastian, that's the big difference is I wanted to introduce the concept of caged in music theory because I think it's a really important element of the skeletal system that you have on your guitar when you're learning, scales and all that kind of stuff anyway. Why not learn the cage system along with it? But the caged course itself is much more comprehensive for people that really want to dig into it and figure out how to use it. So hopefully that helps you, buddy. Here, I got to move my mouse over here. Let's see. Randy says, when is the next 70s master class going to be held? I missed it the last time. And what styles are reviewed in that class? The 70s master class, I don't know when they're held. That's up to Tom. Although you could get a hold of Tom like on Facebook or send him an email. I think it's Tom at guitarzoom.com. I would think so. There's no other Tom there. And ask him. He's kind of in charge of that sort of thing. And I never know when things are coming out. I'm just over on this side creating content and then explaining how to use the content, not so much when they come out. But the 70s Masterclass, who all does it have? It's got Lindsey Buckingham. It's got Tony Iommi. It's got Ted Nugent. And without starting a political fire with Ted Nugent, poor guy, we can never just talk about great musicians anymore with him because he just causes such a stir. But for me, when I was growing up, he was a real big influence on me with his guitar and his tone and the riffs that he played, and just really, really cool. I don't remember who all is in there, Randy. You get a hold of me afterwards. Send me a message afterwards, and I can further you on who's all in that 70s Masterclass. And then Jim says, are you doing the recording product soon? I have gear I want to buy, but I don't. Let's see. But I don't want to get it if the course is coming soon. I want the introductory discount. They always do, of course. Absolutely, Jim. You know what? I haven't started it yet, and here's why. Because I've created a monster with that thing, and I'll let you guys know. We'll keep it between us. But my goal with that course was to teach you the beginnings of how to record, both video and with audio. And the problem that I ran into, and I ran into this horrible problem with how to teach it to you with the right software. Because here's the problem, and we could argue about this all day for people that already do this, but there are a million different kinds of software that you can record with, and they're all different. And the problem is that some people record with a Mac. Some people record with a PC. Some people record with an iPad. Some people record with an iPhone. And I was hoping I could find one easy solution that would cover all platforms, and I cannot. So I had to find one for PC, and then I had to find one for Mac, and then I had to find one for mobile devices. And the problem is I don't want you guys spending a bunch of money going, well, if he's using that software, then I should probably get that because it'll be easiest to connect all my stuff to. And that's what my hope is. But, again, what's easy for somebody isn't easy for somebody else. And the goal isn't to, at this point with this course that I'm creating that Jim is asking about, is to go into the details of EQ and go into the details of compression. All those things can be done later. The goal was just to understand how to set it up. And so, Jim, here's the deal. I don't want to waste all of your time on this, but basically what you need to do is you need to get yourself an interface that then goes into your computer and then software that runs it. And that's all there is to it. But there are some way easier ways of doing that. Like let's say you don't want to spend $300 or $400. You could get a simple interface that goes right into an iPad or an Android or something, and you could record that way. So that's my goal is which I'm still kind of confused on the best way to approach that for you. So when you're watching it, you go, okay, I see how he's connecting that, but I don't need that software. And I actually reached out to a couple of different software companies trying to get discounts on their software for you guys. So when I do release it and you do decide you may want to use whatever it is that I'm using, you wouldn't have to pay full price. Or maybe you'd even get like a free trial. Now, again, there are some programs out there that offer free trials for sure. But I wanted the easiest software I could find that was still kick butt. Where there's software out there that's just too simple, in its interface, and then there's some out there that are just a little bit too complicating in trying to set it up. And I want to help you. Once I get you set up with how the interface connects to the software, you're golden, because then you can just start reading about things and watching videos online and learn all kinds of cool stuff. But that's the first step. So, Jim, I am working on it. I'm working hard on it, but I'm trying to find the right thing to use for Mac, because I'm going to show a Mac version, a PC version, a mobile version, and then that way, no matter who it is, they can go, oh, okay, I can buy this thing and connect it, and I'm good to go. Okay, hopefully that helps you, buddy. Jeremy says, I saw that Steve Grimmett is back home. That's great news, Jeremy. It is wonderful news. Yeah, he's finally back home after almost 2 months. They're redoing his house now because, like, for Steve, his bathroom is upstairs on the second floor. And in England, which some of you probably live in England, most of their houses in England are quite small. And so, his steps going up are quite steep. And so they need to build something for him to get upstairs. Otherwise, he's got to crawl up and down those dang steps. So they're working on it now. So I hope they get stuff done soon for him. I'm actually going over to England in June to see him. So, and I have to have my feet walkable by then. That's the problem that I'm having. Is I'm hoping to get this one done in March so I can go see him in June. But if this one isn't healed, then I can't get this one done right away. So. Troy says, Steve, what kind of strings do you use? Right now I'm using GHS boomers. But I'm going to try and go back to the D'Addario New York XLs, if you've seen those before. I'm going to try those again. With this Paul Reed Smith, I'm using 10s. And this one, I actually have the Paul Reed Smith strings. I put a set of boomers on here, and I just didn't enjoy it at all. So I'm going back to the Paul Reed Smith strings that were on it. But I think I'm also going to try out those. If anybody's ever tried those D'Addario New York XLs, please let me know, because I would love to know what you think of them. But I think the boomers for my EMGs seem to be really great for my Ibanez Gems. Because they're really bitey. I just change them quite frequently because they seem like they die pretty quick. And I just didn't appreciate them on this Paul Reed Smith. The Paul Reed Smith is an entirely different beast in terms of tone than my Gems are, because my Gems are all set up to be very attacking. They all have EMG pickups and that sort of thing. And this is just an entirely different monster, and so I didn't like the boomers on here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going back to the Paul Reed Smith ones, and then I'm also going to try those New York XLs and see what I think of those too. Brian says, caged is no help to me. I love guitar, but I'm stuck. It's a total different beast. Oh, you're stuck. It's a total different beast. Yeah, no, you're right. And the trick is, Brian and everybody on this call, the big thing is don't drown yourself in information, and don't drown yourself in concepts that you're trying to see on your fretboard. Because, and I know this because I did this for years, I don't claim to know everything there is on the fretboard. There's no way. I'm learning just as much as anybody else does. Every day I'm working on new things. But the goal is to see things that you can use, Brian, and again, everybody else on this call. So why would you learn a caged element, and what would you do with it? Well, I do two primary functions with my caged. One is for my soloing, and the other one is for my chords. For chord, I use it a lot for chord stuff. Where I might see E right here, right? And then I've got A right here. So I've got So I see, like, I try and, like, sector out a part of my fretboard, and then I see all my chords in that one spot. So my movements can just be small. So that's a really big way that I use it. And then the other way is it helps me to see my primary notes when I'm soloing for what I'm going to emphasize as I'm playing. I can see those notes kind of sticking out from the pentatonic scale or whatever it is that I might be doing to try and emphasize. So Brian, it's okay. I mean, you might come back to it later and it makes perfect sense for you. Troy says, I have several of your programs. Which one should I start with first? Well, Troy, we'd have to have a bit of a conversation as to where you are in your playing. But here's what I would say, Troy, is the same principle I just told Brian, but kind of break it into pieces, right? Think about it this way. Like if you've got the ultimate, if you don't have the ultimate practice routine, Troy, you should start with that anyway, just to get yourself organized. But in that ultimate practice routine, what I do is I talk about different groupings of things that you should practice on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whatever works for you. So Troy, that's step one for me is try that practice routine and get yourself organized. But get yourself on some sort of scalular study. Then get yourself something of a basic understanding of music. Now, this is saying that you already have your chords, right? If you don't know your chords, you'd want to start there. If you're not very good at your rhythm, you might want to start with something more rhythm-based. But don't just, like, and I understand, Troy, exactly what you're saying, but don't just jump all over the place. Try and have like 2 or 3 courses that you're really just focusing on, not because that's where you want to be, if this makes sense, but it's where you are. Because the easiest way to make progress is always not, I wish I was an astronaut, because we can do anything we want, but it's going to take a lot more time to get here. What's easier to do is to figure out what we actually can do and how we can take what we already can do and expand it just a little bit. And a prime example of that, Troy, would be a scale. Like a scale, like this is one of the biggest things that still, just puzzles me, is like when you want to play pentatonic, for instance, or diatonic, or whatever it is, but let's just say pentatonic, how many people still can't see past like the first position or the first 2 positions. Now, that doesn't mean that's terrible. It doesn't mean that at all. If you can make beautiful music in one position, but if you can really see that first position and you can move into, let's say, the second position, and you can start learning. You can start doing some really cool stuff by connecting those positions together. Now, the question is, Troy, is well, what do you use inside there? Well, that's where like guitar soloing made easy might be good. Once you've got kind of a palette of some things that you can use, you might use a licks thing to throw some licks in there, or you might use, Solo Fire or Guitar Solos Made Easy or something like that to throw some ideas in there. Or 2 of the courses that I really like that I've done, there's one called Real World Soloing, which I just love it because it's a practical approach to actually using your fretboard and learning how to solo. And the other one is Learning to Phrase. I think it's called Learning to Phrase in 14 Days or something. So think of it this way. Down here, you've got your chords and your scale study, right? And then right here, you've got learning how to do something, learning how chord progressions work, learning how solos work, all this sort of thing. And then up here, you've got the creativity stuff like phrasing and real-world soloing and things like that, where you're going to use these other things, but you're thinking more about it in a musical sense up here. So kind of like that. Brian says, how the feet are doing good. Coming along. Eckhart, hello, buddy. That's awesome that you're here. Bruce, hello, Bruce. I'm trying to get caught up. I got a million things here. Tell us the specs on that PRS. It's a PRS. You guys would know the specs better than I would probably, but it's a custom 24. It's a 10 top, and it's got the 8515 pickups and mahogany back, mahogany neck. It's got the thin neck, which is what really attracted me to it in the first place, was the guitar store here locally that I went to called Flatland Guitar, and I walked in and Brett, one of the owners, said, "Man, you gotta try," because he knows I'm a big gem guy. I've played them all my life, and he goes, "You got to try this PRS because the neck is going to be something that you might be interested in." Because I don't like big wide necks. I'm a small guy. I got small hands, and I played it and just went, "Wow, that's amazing." And I've been playing 9-gauge strings for so long, and I threw 9s on this thing and I hated it, and I went back to 10s, which it just feels great. So those are the specs, Jonathan. That's kind of the overall of the guitar. But it's pretty amazing how well it plays. I mean, for me, I can play it just as well as I can play my gems, which I don't say about many guitars. But the difference is that the pickup configuration is just so vastly different through a really great amp, which I can't show you right now. But I've got a boutique amp, a custom amp that was created, a hand-created amp over here that has a JCM 800 style board in it, and it just sounds killer through it. So, kind of fun. Ed says, I might be there with my guitars. I'd like to show them to you also. Well, Ed, you could do that. Like I said, we won't have anything to plug into, and we're not going to bring amps into the bar and things like that. But I would love to see your guitars for sure, buddy. I think that would be cool. Let's see. Sebastian says, I was about to ask if you've ever done a Hendrix master class. I haven't done a specific person. I've done a genre. And to be honest, when it comes to Hendrix, I think I would talk more, because I've thought about doing Hendrix. And I think I was going to include him. I don't know if I was going to do a 70s or do a 60s and try and grab like Clapton and Hendrix and them as a 60s one, and only because I don't know why. Anyway, because he obviously would be appropriate in the 70s as well. But I think with Hendrix, I would wind up focusing more on chord progressions than I would soloing. Because for me, his soloing was awesome. But what really made him stand out, in my opinion, were the chord fragments and things that he would use. You look at some of those songs like Wind Cries Mary and Experienced, and I mean, there's just some really great stuff going on in those songs. Little riffy things and fill things and just his songwriting in general. So Shar said, when are you going to do a 60s masterclass? It's on the list for sure. If you guys haven't noticed, what I've been trying to do lately is I'm trying to make courses that are a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter. That way, you don't have to pay so much money. When I come out with a 6 or 8 or 10 hour course, it's a lot of frickin' work. And I love them, don't get me wrong. But I just wanted to put out some stuff that's a little bit smaller that might be easier, where people go, oh, crap, I don't have to pay this. I can only pay this. So I'm trying to do my best to kind of make a well-rounded. So, Shar, there is a 60s one coming, believe me. Let's see here. Brian says I need perfect fourths and fifths. That's what I need help with. Brian, tell me specifically what you mean with perfect fourths and fifths, because I see you wrote 2 with intervals, but tell me exactly what you mean by what do you need help with intervals? Like, what are you trying to do? And then I'll get to your question. Bruce says, what is the software you use for your guitar effects? Well, right now, let me show you. Right now, what I'm doing is using this. So right now, just for this thing right now, what I'm doing is I'm using Amplitude, and this is the virtual instrument that I'm using. You can see right now I'm using Cakewalk Sonar. Hopefully you guys can see that right now. Cakewalk, I love this recording program. I got tons of different recording programs, but this is one of them that I'd really like to focus on. I think it's like $50 or something like that, and it's super easy from a guitar player's perspective on using it. So you literally take your plugins, like let's say I wanted, we'll go over here. Let's say I wanted my tuner, right? Well, let me get my tuner out of there. Okay, so let's say I wanted my tuner. So I come over here, I find my tuner, and all I do is I literally drag it over here, and now it's part of my chain. So it's ready to go. It's ready to be used. So, I mean, it's that easy. Like, you don't have to route a bunch of stuff and things like that. It's just super easy to use. So that's what I'm using. And then within it, I'm using Amplitude. So right now you'll see I've got it set up with a tube screamer. Turn it off. I've got... So it sounds I love this program, this Amplitude. And then as far as stuff that I've got on it, you'll see over here I've got a digital delay set in the rack, the virtual rack. And then I've got a digital reverb as well, and I've got them set really low in the mix, but that's what I've got going there, buddy. So hopefully you guys could see that okay. Okay, let's see. William says, is that a new guitar? It is a new guitar, yes. It sure is, buddy. John says, software is like pizza. Everyone has their favorite. That's right, and that's my big thing is I don't want to... I don't want you going out and spending just a ton of money on different things. So when I do get this recording thing made, it's going to be specific to these items work really well, and it won't cost you a lot of money, and it works great for what you want. And then as you keep learning, you might decide you want Pro Tools or you want whatever. I was a Cubase user for many years, but again, that goes back when I was. I mean, this is 25 years ago. There wasn't all these other companies, and there wasn't the internet, and there wasn't all this other stuff. So learning how to use that software living in Fargo, North Dakota was pretty tough because nobody else was really using that stuff. So I had to go down to Minneapolis to buy the software, and it was really expensive. And now there's stuff out there that's way cheaper. Unless you're running a recording studio, which I am not, it's not something that's overly necessary. There's lots of great stuff out there. So Eckhart says... GarageBand on Mac. GarageBand's perfect for Mac because you don't have to pay a bunch of money, and it's got all kinds of stuff. GarageBand's probably what I'll talk about on the Mac side of things because it's just super easy and it's already available. So anyway, oh yeah, Randy says Carlos Santana's in the 70s masterclass, and Carlos is. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Okay. Jonathan says, what interfaces do they have for Android tablets? You know, I don't have an Android. I have all Apple stuff. I was sucked into Apple many years ago, and now I can't get out if I want to because we own all these videos and music, and so we're Apple people in our family. But the one thing that I would recommend for you that I will talk about in that recording software, I don't know if it works for Android. You'd have to look into it, but it's called iRig, and I've got the iRig Pro HD. That's the one I've got. It's got two plugins, one for a guitar, one for a vocal. And it's super easy to use. And it's super portable. And it comes with a bunch of different adapters so you can plug it into your computer, but then you can also plug it into an iPhone or you can plug it into an iPad. And again, I don't know if it works with Android, but it's a little bit expensive. You know, well, I don't know what expensive is, but it's a little bit more than I'd like to tell you to pay. But it's super compatible, and it's super clean, and it's super easy to use, and it's called iRig Pro. It's by IK Multimedia. That's the company that makes it. But it's called an iRig Pro HD. And if that works for Android, I would tell you right now that's the easiest way I think to go. But I think it's a couple $100 or something like that. Let's see here. Kent says, also taking Music Theory for Life, the Cage course will show how to play melodic notes over chords. How does that compare to chord chasing mastery? Well, chord chasing mastery is a little bit different because you're learning how to think about not really the Cage system per se. You're thinking about how to solo over each individual chord. Like you might think of, like we normally do, collectively we think of being in a key, right? So we're in the key of G, and we've got these 4 chords. So we go to our guitar and we play scales in the key of G, right? So we're doing whatever it is we're going to do. What chord chasing does is it makes you think more about the chord itself. Like I don't want to say country players, although they do this, but you think about what to do over each individual chord, not just what to do collectively over a chord. So when a D chord comes up, you're thinking, okay, well, I could be in the key of this using this. or I could use this little fill over this particular thing. And when a C chord comes up, I'm not thinking of these chords as being part of the key of G. I'm looking at them as independent things. So chord chasing you might already kind of know how to do chord chasing if you already know your caged and your music theory and all that stuff. So it might not be something that would work for you, Kent. All I can say is you could try it, and if it doesn't work, you will certainly give your money back to you. So no big deal. Dave says a lot of small interfaces come with software. That's right. A ton of them do. That's why I'm saying it's just so tough because, you'll buy something and it'll come with Ableton or it'll come with some other thing, and then you'll start using that, and then you got to figure out whether or not you like that software, or if you're sucked into it because now you got to use it because it came with your, in your mind anyway. You don't think that you should be using something else. And it's just impossible, to sit and make 50 different videos on 50 different programs that I don't want to go out and buy. That all gets too expensive anyway. But yeah, you're right. And those are things that we'll talk about. Shar said 60s Masterclass. I think I just answered that. It's certainly on the list. I just haven't gotten there yet. Let's see here. John says, when London, I'm going to be going on vacation with my family. This year is my wife and I, it's our 10-year anniversary. So we got married in a castle in Scotland. And so we're bringing our kids with, and we are going to go visit Steve, and then we're going to go to Scotland, and we're going to go to Bath, and we're going to go all kinds of different places. So sometime in June, I think the middle of June, John, but my wife has forbade me from doing any work while I'm there, so I can't do any IGPA stuff this time around. But I guarantee you, traveling overseas is coming soon for sure. I promise you that I'm going to get over there and I'm going to start visiting people, and we're going to talk about guitar. We're going to make some music. So let's see. John says he heard that the XLs are good. Yeah, I mean, Slinky, I see now people are talking about the I'm so far behind on this chat. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of great strings. I would never sit here and say that there's any bad string out there. It's just what I always liked about the GHS boomers is that when you put them on, they're really bright. And because I play a lot of metal, I can get pinch harmonics and things on a dime. I can get them just like that. It's just that I tend to change them weekly because they don't last very long. And that's not a problem. It's okay. I mean, strings are cheap enough anyway. To spend between $3 and $10 on a set of strings isn't the worst thing in the world. I don't change all my guitars, every week. I just change, there's mainly like 3 of them that I use a lot, and then the rest of them I use on occasion. And so the boomers I like, I just didn't care for them on this. But I'm approaching this guitar from a different angle, like, playing all the... playing all this kind of stuff. Just, it's kind of fun to have something a bit more warm for strings, and the GHS just weren't working for me. So I'm going to try something else. So John B says, is that a 10-top? It is a 10-top. Yes, it is. Bill says, I love the 8515 pickups on my PRS with the Gilmore 10 boomers. Okay, well, I've never tried those. That's another one I could try. So thank you. Thank you, Bill. Franklin says, Cage has given me a totally different perspective of the fretboard. It's my go-to when I'm going back to the basics. I use it all the time. I use the Cage system a ton when I play in church. I play in church. I'm on a worship team that plays once a month. We transition each month. And I use the Cage stuff all the time when I'm playing more pop stuff like that, more major stuff. Because when I'm playing metal, I don't use it as much because it's just a completely different perspective when I'm soloing. So when I'm doing more of the metal stuff, I got a show on Wednesday. We're opening for Uli John Roth, if you guys know who he is. Incredible guitar player. Used to be in the Scorpions, very neoclassical guy. And ironically, his stage manager is the tour manager that I had when I was on tour with Grim Reaper. So I get to see our tour manager again, which is going to be really neat. Because he lives in California, so I haven't seen him since the tour. But anyway, so with the more metal stuff, I like the GHS stuff, but it's more minor, so I'm playing more scalular things. It's just kind of the way it is. Hopefully, I'll be able to videotape some of the show and get you guys some footage of that too. So Jonathan says, what's the best way to learn the circle of fifths? Well, answer me this, Jonathan. What are you going to use it for? Because if you're just going to learn the circle of fifths, like what the circle of fifths is, the easiest way is just to learn what they are. Because you're just going up a fifth, right? C becomes G, G becomes D, D becomes A becomes E, right? And every time you do that, you're just adding, I think I told you guys this in that Music Theory for Life. I'm sure I did. Oh, I'm sure I did. Maybe I didn't, but there's a shortcut I can show you. Well, that's not really going to help you either, because that's more sharps and flats. But that's the easiest way, honestly. I never found the circle of fifths to be a difficult thing, Jonathan. If you just memorize them, right? If you're just trying to literally learn the circle, right? So you go from G to D, okay, and then well, we got C first, right? So C, G, G, D, D, A, E, E, B. Okay. Now, if you look at, maybe I can do this. Hold on a second. Let me show you something. Let me pull up a piece of paper here, a virtual piece of paper. Let me show you something. You got to give me a minute, though. It's going to take a minute. Okay, so if we go do this. Okay, and then I'll just put it down here. F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and C flat. Okay, make these bigger and I'll show you this. I'll share this with you. Okay, I'm going to share this here. Hopefully you can see that okay. I'll make that bigger. Now what I want you to look at is this right here. You guys can see that okay. As a matter of fact, there. That'll work. Okay, so over here you've got your transition of fifths. C doesn't have any sharps or flats. G has 1 sharp, D has 2 sharps, A has 3 sharps, E has 4 sharps, B has 5 sharps, F sharp has 6 sharps, and C sharp would have 7 because C has none, so C sharp would have all the wacky things like, you know, E sharp and B sharp. It would have all those listed in there. Okay, so when you get to a key like this, again, most people don't play in the key of C sharp. They would opt to play in the key of D flat instead because it makes more sense on paper, but this is how it would work. So these are fifths. Moving from C to G is a fifth. D to G to D is a fifth. D to A is a fifth. A to E. And if you look, what's ironic about this is you'll see that it spells the word bead. And over here it spells the word bead. Do you see that? So you got bead, GC. Bead, GC. This is how I first learned these. It just was easier for me to do. So bead, GC. Now when you're on this side, and again, I'm just giving you a shortcut here, but when you're on this side, you've got F sharp and C sharp, right? So G, C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, C sharp. And again, they work out to be the fifths if you try and work this out. Where the key of, you can't put F here because the key of F actually winds up with 1 flat. So on this side, you've got all your keys with flats. So F has no sharps or flats, B flat has 1, E flat has 2, A flat has 3, and so on. Oh, sorry. F has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I haven't thought about this in a little while. Because obviously you'd still have over here, you'd have your key of C, which doesn't have any sharps or flats, right? So this would still be 0 sharps and 0 flats. 1 flat, 2 flat, 3 flat, 4 flat, and so on. Okay? And then you've got your relative minors. Okay? And your relative minor is always the 6th chord. Let me go back here. Hey, everybody. Your relative minor is always the 6th chord in that key. Okay, so there's a million different ways you can play. You can think about the circle of fifths. It's just you got to figure out what you want to do with it, Jonathan. Let's see here. Brian says yes, John, and fourths, they are perfect intervals. Fourths and fifths are perfect intervals. Yep. So if you're helping there, Brian, I appreciate that. Sorry guys, I got to try and get. I'm so far behind here. Brian has a Chapman stick. Yes, he does. That is so great. Let's see. Troy says, I have that program. What about the pentatonics? Then look for the ultimate fretboard connection, because then you learn the pentatonic across the whole fretboard, and then you learn the diatonic across the whole fretboard. And then you might move into modes or something like that. Or you might start learning how to just use that pentatonic information or that diatonic information to start learning how to actually create solos. Because please, everybody remember, there are two different kinds of theory for us as guitar players. There's the theory up here where we're thinking 2 + 2 = 4, right? In the key of, or the chord C, the E is the third, right? Or the major third in the chord C. Then there's the visual theory. Visual theory is when you look down, do you see what it is that you're trying to utilize in your situation, right? Then there's the next step on top of that is what are you going to do with all this stuff, right? The creative stuff, right? Are you going to throw a lick in? Are you using phrasing? Are you using a cage to move around? Or are you, working on techniques? Or, I mean, there's a million different things that you can do. And I don't want to confuse you with that. It's just that's the goal, is to figure out your path. Like where so many people think, well, I got to learn new scales every day, or I got to learn, more theory every day. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not, it comes back to the same thing I just said. If you're not learning how to use these things in the real world, you can't improvise with any of it. It might make you a better player in terms of playing other people's songs, but you're not really going to be able to make things up. Where the fun thing is you're going, okay, well, this person is playing a C chord, so I got to figure out what I'm going to do. Am I going to... or am I going to... What am I going to do over the top of this thing that's being played? And then a G chord comes up. Well, what am I going to do now? Right? That's the question with all of this kind of stuff. Okay? Let's see here. Perfect. Brian said, I asked how your feet were. I talked about it before, Brian, but my feet are doing okay. This foot is, I'm out of the boot when I'm around the house. I can't put full pressure on it, but I can't put a shoe on yet, unfortunately. So, according to my surgeon, I am behind on my my recovery, because he wanted me in a shoe by now, and that sucker ain't going in a shoe yet. So, PJ said learning all 5 pentatonic positions was life-changing. Huge, PJ. And that's the thing is, once you really can see something, or once you really understand something, and you can apply that thought to your fretboard, you've got something real, right? Because the big thing is we got to build a skeleton of something, whether it's one position or whether it's 2 positions or all the positions, whether it's caged, whatever it might be. But we've got to be able to see something. Then we can get in there and we can start thinking musically. That's a whole nother level, because it's like when you're hearing the music, what are you doing? Playing metal when I was a kid, I was pretty oblivious to what was going on musically, because I was able to play fast and I knew my fretboard pretty well. So I could play things that were, and I still do, I could play things that would work with what was being played, but my eyes really opened when I started learning how to play over chords, like really like hearing chords and responding to those chords, not just playing in a scale and moving around in a scale. And I'm sure most of you probably know what I'm talking about. And you're just playing, and you're hoping that when you stop, you're landing on the right things. And, no one note is more important than any other note. You're just playing, which is what I call meandering. And it's really important to be able to do that. There's no doubt about it. But once I started learning to go, okay, well, this chord is being played, I need to respond to that chord. It brought up my music. I shouldn't say musicianship, because I think I did, but I'm not going to sit here and be egotistical saying that it did. But it seemed like my musicianship went up, because when I was playing with other musicians, I could do things that was compatible with what they're doing. I wasn't just playing over them, I was playing with them, which was huge. Where a lot of times in metal, you're not really worried about playing with them. When the guitar solo comes, it's more of a flash element. Not always, I'm just generalizing, but it does happen. But if you're playing over something where the chords are more... something like that, and you're going to solo, you can't just... It's just too much. You know, that isn't what the song wants. And so it's a really cool place to go musically because you're like, oh, this is so different than what I'm used to doing because I got to think about something that's going to fit. Whatever it might be, making those connections, and it's just it's for me it was just a higher level, and it made me feel good about playing because all of a sudden, like I could listen to another guitar player or whatever's going on with the band, and I could start responding to it and not just playing a scale, but playing music. If that sort of makes sense. Okay, Jim says, will I leave the pickups in this or put EMGs in it? I will not put EMGs in here. No way. I love the pickups that are in here. I approach the guitar very differently than I do my gem. It certainly isn't going to replace the gem, but it gives me a whole nother level of musical things that my gem does not supply me with. So it's been great. So I'm not going to replace the pickups in here with anything at all. I'm going to leave those 8515s in there for sure. And it's just really responsive, which you can't really tell on this VST that I'm using. It's just really responsive on, you know, volume rolls and all kinds of different things. So no, Jim, I will not be changing the pickups in here at all. John says, show us the neck, please. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean this? Like, put it up there? Maybe that's what you meant? Hey, Scott from Alabama. Just got here. That's awesome. We're running a little late anyway. I got a lot of stuff to get to here. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm blessed to be able to have. You know, one thing for me is I've been playing for so long, and now that I've got kids and my wife and everything, I do not spend money on gear on a regular basis at all because I just kind of feel like I've got what I need. God gave me what I need for stuff, and I'm good. Where this was a bit of a different situation. So, but I'm very, very, very blessed to be able to have this for sure. Let's see here. Is the PRS a signature model? It is not a signature model. It's just a custom 24. So, and I see Brian is bummed. Well, Brian, the thing is, and I get it, what you're going through, Brian, and I can't answer all those questions. Of course, that's what our community is for, too. The hardest part about this whole guitar thing, I think, Brian, is not getting off your path. Once you define what your path is going to be, right? And again, please just let me explain this for a second for Brian. Let's say, because I don't know where you're at and you're playing, Brian, but if you're going to make music, you have two choices. Either you're playing something that somebody else wrote, which you should do on a regular basis. Everybody, you've heard me preach about this before. You guys should be learning songs. I don't care what it is. You know, just stuff that's exciting and it makes you feel good. And you know, those people have already written these things. You know, it's like, again, it's like trying to study art and never look at famous artists. You know, just starting with like, oh, it's a piece of paper. I've never seen that before. You want to learn music. But if you're looking at trying to explore the fretboard for what it is, think about it as you're either looking at it from a chord perspective or a scale perspective, right? One of those two things. And then what are you going to do with these things, right? If you're playing chords, are you... get so wrapped up in thinking that like chords are a beginner thing because we're soloing, and they're not. Chords are a staple of so many things on the guitar. But once you get to a place where you're starting to learn your scales, then you got to start figuring out, again, do you want to move this way? Or do you want to stay here and get creative within the context of this thing? And what are you jamming over, right? If you're jamming over a blues track, do you know your 12-bar blues? So you can anticipate what the next chord is going to be. If you're writing music, that's a whole other thing. Brian, I get it. The big thing is you got to try and put yourself on a path that you know who you are, and you know what you want, and you know what you can access that's not so far away from where you are. Like, think of it this way. If you're just learning how to play some chords and you're learning how to play some beginning scales, and you're trying to learn how to sweep, or you're trying to learn how to tap, those are great things. That's fun, but they're not connected together. So they're not going to, all of a sudden, there's not going to be this bridge between the two. They're two completely different things. Where I think the best success that people have is when they can start learning how to build small pieces as they keep moving up. Troy says, what was that program called again? Which program, Troy? Unless you're talking about Amplitube. Right now what I'm using is Cakewalk Home Studio. They have way more expensive programs, but for the recording aspect, I'm using Cakewalk Home Studio. It's like $50. It's cheap and it's super easy to use. And the plugin that I'm using right now is Amplitube, if that's what you're talking about. The interface I was talking about earlier was iRig Pro HD. Okay. Mark says, do you still plan on doing a class in recording? We talked about that already, Mark, and you'll be able to see that in the replay. But yes, I certainly am. It's just, it's become way bigger than I had anticipated. Randy says, very Doobie Brothers sounding. I completely agree. I started playing this thing and went, man, I need to start a Doobie Brothers tribute band and just play a bunch of Doobie songs all night, which would be really fun. Let's see here. Brian says, if I could understand the fourths and fifths being perfect, it's not that difficult. You think about it this way, in a very terrible sense, but if you could think about it this way, Brian, the fourth can't have a minor fourth or a major fourth because there's no notes around it. Like if I play this, that's my major scale, right? So if I play 1, 2, 3, there's my major third. That's the major third of my chord. Okay, so if I go, I can't go lower than this because there's already a third there. So they just call this, they call it a perfect fourth. Okay? Now again, you can look up the definition of why. Now we've got our perfect fifth right here. You don't call it a major fourth and a minor fourth, and you don't call it a minor fifth and a major fifth. You don't call them that. It's a theory thing, and again, all you got to do is look it up. But when you're playing a fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, I'm going from A to D, right? So if I wanted to go from A to D, I'd have my perfect fifth, and it's just terminology, right? Perfect fourth, perfect fifth. In between those, I can call this a sharp 4 or a flat 5. We don't call it a major 4 or a minor 4 or a major 5, a minor 5. We don't call it that. It's just called a flat 5 or a sharp 4, raised 4. Normally we call it a flat 5. And if you also understand that historically this interval would have you strung up by the church because it was the satanic interval. It was the devil's interval. The Diabolus in Musica, I believe it was called. So people avoided that interval like the plague, where we use it all the time in blues. We use it all the time in metal. So it's very common for us to use it now. So again, don't let the term perfect throw you off. Perfect is just saying there's not a major and a minor. There's not, where when you have a second, you have a major and minor second, right? Or a third, you have a major and minor third. Fourth, you don't have that. You just have the fourth and you have the fifth. Now, there is a note in between that we can call the flatted 5 or the raised sharp 4. We can call it either one of those. So, let's see here. Let's see. Armin says the older, not HD iRig Pro is cheaper and works great too. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't sit and tell you what the big difference between, and I'm sure if you're going to buy an iRig, you'd look it up and go, oh, well, what do I need, right? Because there's a normal iRig that only has, I think, one input, and then there's the iRig Pro that has two inputs. And whether or not the HD is faster or not, I don't know. I understand technology. So I try and stay up as best I can. So things will work as long as possible. But Armin, you're absolutely right. I'm sure the regular iRig is just fine. You just have to look at the differences and see if there's something that you need. Okay. Let's see here. I think we're doing good. We're on an hour here, guys. Brian says I don't use Facebook. Yeah, you know what? To tell you the truth, Brian, I I despise Facebook on so many levels, other than the fact that I get to talk to, friends and some family members and you guys in the Guitar Zoom stuff. But I'm not a fan of Facebook either. But if you could at least tolerate going to Facebook and joining the community group, at least you'd be in there with a bunch of other players and hang out. I'm still trying to curb this posting video thing. I love that people are posting videos, but now that we've got 15,000 people in there, I'm trying to get people to understand not to post so much, to try and help people with questions of things. And don't get me wrong, I love seeing videos of people. Don't get me wrong, but it's really tough for people to ask questions and get proper answers. And then, of course, as we keep growing, we have people that go, oh, I'm going to join this group because I'm going to try and steal a bunch of these people into my guitar lessons. And so we got to keep watching out for that now, where you just kind of wish everybody would just help each other and be happy, but it's not easy. So we keep working on it. So anyway, guys, I hope this is helping you. I'm so sorry I couldn't get to everything. It's really hard. Let's see here. Yeah. So anyway, I got to get going, but I hope this helped a little bit. And I will get you the information on San Diego. I will post that. I'll post this replay or this video in the group too, so you guys can see this. And then I'll look up that stuff on San Diego and remind you guys of that. But like I said, I don't want you to go out of your way. As soon as I get these feet healed and I get all my surgeries done, I am going to get out there and start seeing you guys as best I can. So, Ed, yeah, you'll get the replay for this for sure. So, guys, everybody take care. God bless you, and have a wonderful evening or morning or whatever time it is. I want you to know I absolutely appreciate the fact that you take time out of your day or evening to be here with me. It's awesome. I really, really was looking forward to this evening, just being able to talk to you guys a little bit. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you soon, and I'll keep making some courses. And if you guys get some more ideas for courses, please message me and say, from any of the places, from Steve or GuitarZoom or whatever, and say, hey, Steve, here's a really great idea for a course. Let me know what you're thinking, and I'll keep doing the best I can. So guys, take care, stay positive, and keep practicing, and I'll talk to everybody real soon.